Today, it's all about custom trees, how to build them and why you'd want them. And I'm going to show you how to make 12 custom tree designs in Minecraft Survival that will make your world pop. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a normal Minecraft tree. But if you want to move amongst the best builders in Minecraft, landscaping is everything. And custom trees are a massive part of that. So I'm going to give you 12 different custom tree designs, show you how to make them, and then give you the schematic for all 12 for you to be able to download into your Minecraft world. And if this video gets enough likes, I'll do a second installment with more custom tree designs of different types as well. So do slap that like button if you enjoy the video, and while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell as well. And then you'll know when I've done the next installment. That just makes sense. Let's crack on with it. Now, Spruce is quite a tall tree, so I'm going to come up with a tower that is 13 to 15 blocks high. Once I've got that long center shaft, I'm going to come up and build the outside up a little bit with piles of spruce wood that are either 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 high. We could build that up a little bit more in a minute. And then I'm going to get some dark oak. Now dark oak wood is a really good color match for spruce, so I'm going to pop in some of this dark oak. I'm just going to scatter it around a little bit, and I'm going to come this way for this one and this way, come out there. I'm going to get some slabs, because use slabs as well as steps just to give a differential in height. I might actually put that just there. We can maybe change the ground up with a little bit of things like podzol and also some coarse dirt. And depending how high you've gone with your center shaft depends how high you put your first bow. Now I've gone 15 here, so I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3 and 4, and on the 5th one I'm going to place a pop out there. Now I'm going to place a pop out there and possibly on this side as well. I'm going to bring these out 2 blocks. It's relatively high, but you can see that trunk is taking up quite a lot of room. And then I'm going to come up a little bit further and I'm going to put another pop out, but just 1 this time. I'm not putting them in the same place every time either. And then here we're not going to put any pop outs at all. I'm going to get some dark oak fence. Now on the bottom ones I'm going to place 2 lots of dark oak fence coming out in each direction, and then on these ones I'm going to place 1 fence coming out, and then up towards the top I'm going to place 1 fence directly on the shaft of it there, and then at the top we're going to come up 2 more blocks. So you can see we kind of got the skeleton of a spruce tree. And this is the bit where you make your tree completely unique. No 2 trees are ever the same in nature, so why should they be in Minecraft? Now grab your spruce leaves. And what you're going to do first is you're going to place your leaves on the outside of your endmost pop outs here on the fences, just on either side of them like that, all the way around. That's looking okay. But what you need to do with spruce is they need to drip down a little bit. So I'm going to come out and just drip down that end one. So come temporary and underneath and take that out. So you can see we've kind of got that drooping edge to the tree. Now I've repeated that on all of those pop outs, and frankly you could almost get away with leaving that as a tree like it is, but I think I want a little bit more bushing. So starting at the bottom, we're just going to add leaves fairly randomly. Put them on the top of your pop outs, put them on the side of your pop outs, but make sure you leave yourself some air gaps as well. You don't want to join them up too much. You want to be able to see light through the sides of your leaves as well, not just have it completely solid. And keep doing that all the way around the base until you're happy with the way it looks. So the bottom of those boughs are starting to look really beautiful. They've hung down quite nicely. I just might put another one out there, maybe take that one out, bring this one round, pop that down there and move that. You can see it's starting to get really bushy, and you just play with it until you're really happy with the shape. I think I'm going to leave that bottom section there. We've got a good long bough drooping down there. This one's a little bit more bushy now. That looks great. I'm now going to start to do the same on this side. So we've put leaves across all 3 levels of bough. You need to take a good step back just to check that you've still got a little bit of light going through there. You can see this section here looks just a little bit too open now, so I need to perhaps close that off with another few droops. Bring that down there. I think that looks a lot better. You can see we've got some nice natural shape coming through to the tree now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come to the top, and I'm going to place 2 leaves on top of that top area there, and just randomly bring some more leaves around the top of this tree. You don't want it too covered up, but you want it covered up enough that it doesn't look like you've just stuck a fence post on it. That looks a lot more natural, I think. And just keep going until you're happy with the tree that you've built. And I think that looks pretty decent and fairly realistic. So that's a large spruce tree. What about a small spruce tree? A smaller spruce tree is made in a really similar way. I'm going to come up 7 blocks, 6 and 7. I'm And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dark oak fence at the top, and I'm going to come up 1 and 2 just like before. At the bottom, I'm maybe going to put 1 block there, 1 block there. I'm going to put in some slabs. I'm going to get in a little bit of step, and then here we're going to have no real pop outs with logs, but we are going to use some fences. I'm going to put a fence there, and a fence there. We're then going to use exactly the same technique. We're going to put leaves on either side, very much like we did on the upper levels of the larger tree. And then on the side, just bring in a couple more, and then just build up with leaves however you want on the underside. And you end up with a really pretty little spruce tree that looks like that. And sometimes there's one thing you can do with a spruce tree that's quite useful. You can create a fallen spruce tree. We've got the roots at this end that have been just pulled out of the ground. What I might do is I might change that into that so that looks a little bit more realistic, and then you can put some of the leaves. Maybe it's just been recently fallen over, so these leaves are going to be sat there still, they've not rotted away. These can often be used as a gap filler in a forest. If you just got something that you want to add a little bit of detail to, then you can put these fallen trees, because not every tree is going to be healthy in a white forest, is it? That looks quite decent as a fallen tree. Let's just stick another couple of leaves there. They can be quite random. Or if you've got a little gap that you don't want to build a bridge over, maybe a tree could have fallen across it. That looks really effective. The next tree we're going to have a crack at is the oak tree. And with this one, you can really go to town. And we'll start off with a fairly decent sized one. I'm going to make a pillar that is 9 high. And then on top of that, again, just like before, we're going to pop 2 bits of spruce fence this time, because you can see the color is very, very similar. Then we're going to come up to the bottom, and we're going to make ourselves a bit of a base in exactly the same way as we did with the spruce. Then we're going to come up to around about 5 blocks up, and we're going to stick out pop-ups approximately in the same sort of place. I've just gone across 2 and then down across 2 again, and then we're going to come up and we're going to create ourselves some branches, and these branches generally come out relatively straight. So you can see we've only gone up once on that. This is going to come out and across and up there. That's probably fine. And then towards the top, we're going to create some other branches that come out not as far, but in similar sorts of directions. Let's come out there for that one. Then we're going to get our spruce fence, and we're going to place some pop outs around the side, again just like we did on the spruce. And then we're going to put spruce 2 on each side there, 1 on the sides, and we're just really filling up where we think there might be some gaps. Down at the base, just like before, we are going to build up this root system just a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting looking. We can use some fences, we can use some slabs, we can definitely use steps, and we can always indent a few roots coming out of the base, because oak trees have got a huge root system, and we can fill out with some mud and all that kind of stuff as well, but that's quite nice. We like that. We've got the outer edges of our tree right now. Now what we're going to do, again similarly to the way we did with the spruce tree, is we're going to place leaves on the ends of all of our pop outs and on the sides, but with the oak tree we don't need to drop it down. This is going to stay relatively flat. In fact, we want to bush across and up as opposed to across and down. We want to make sure we keep plenty of room underneath. Oaks don't tend to grow down so much unless the weight of the branch is too large. And I've gone around all of those pop outs and placed some leaves, and you can see again, like the spruce, it's already looking quite tree-like. You could almost leave it like that. The bushing is pretty good, but I think we want to add just a little bit more. So again, just like with the spruce, we're going to add leaves on the areas that perhaps we want to put some leaves. We're going to leave plenty of air gaps, because the secret to oak is space. And you should keep adding the leaves in until you've got that nice bushy shape that you would associate with an oak tree. I'm quite pleased with that. It's not entirely finished, but it's pretty close. Then come underneath, and where we've got these folds here, these sharp corners, you can place in a bit of a step. That stops that looking quite so sudden in terms of the change of direction of the oak tree, and it gives it a little bit more strength. If you wish to, you can also come in with these as well, pop in a little bit there. And what you can also do is you can come in with a little bit of azalea leaf. Now azalea is ever so slightly different looking to the oak leaf, and if your biome suits it, and be prepared, not every biome is going to suit it, put in just a little splash of different colour using an azalea leaf. And if you want to be really cheeky, you can use some flowering azalea just to bring in some extra additional colour as well. Makes it look a little bit more autumn-like perhaps, but I personally would rather keep it a pure oak for this particular tree myself. And I think we're there. We've got a really nice shape to this particular tree, and a really good test if you come underneath it and you look up. It's not just green, you've got a little bit of sky as well. Make sure that you can see the sky through your tree, otherwise you're never going to want to sit under it. So that's a lovely big oak tree. What if we want to do a smaller one? Well, just like the spruce tree, it's not much different. You're going to come 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then grab yourself a fence and place a spruce fence up like that. You're then going to come out with the odd pop out, don't have to do too much, and then a little bit of spruce fence coming out as well. And then we're going to do exactly the same, add a little bit of leaf at the end of each of these pop outs, just to make sure that we're covering them up, but not completely, because again, we want to keep space as well as leaf. Without too many leaves, you can build yourself quite a pretty looking little oak tree. Again, make sure you've got a little bit of space coming up through that tree. You don't want too much leaf, although you're probably going to have less space than you do with a big tree because there's less room to play with. And a fallen oak looks just as effective as a fallen spruce. These things fall over all the time in the forest. This must have been some wind that pulled that up, but that could bridge any gap or add some great detail to your forest. And that brings us to birch. Now, birch wood isn't my favourite wood. Those of you that know me know this, but that doesn't mean that it can't get a custom tree. Now, a birch is almost a cross between an oak and a spruce. I'm going to come up 9 high with my birch rod there, and I'm going to bring up just a little bit on the sides because they don't have a very thick base, birch, but they do have a very long stem, a very long trunk. What I'm going to come up 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. I'm going to bring 2 pop outs on that side. I'm going to come down and bring 1 pop out on that side and come up and do 2 on that side, and on the same level I'm going to do another 1, and then we're going to kind of branch out a little bit like we did with the oak. I'm going to kind of spread it in 2 directions with this one though. I'm going to come out there and there and there, and then on this side we're going to come out and up and across, and then on this one we're just going to come out 1, and then at the top we're going to come out and across and over like that. And I'm then going to bring up 1 more block there and 1 birch there. So we've kind of got the skeleton there, and now what we're going to do exactly the same way, we're going to put little fence pop outs. Some are going to be 2, some are going to be 1, and it's where it looks maybe just a little bit bare. Now I reckon that looks absolutely fine, and you guess what we're doing next? We're going to tip off these fence pop outs with some leaves on either side, not always on either side. Maybe we leave the odd side open like there. And we're also going to come on top of some of the pop outs that go upwards. We don't want to again overdo it. There's going to be fewer leaves on this birch tree than there is on your average oak tree. They're a little bit more sparse because the branches tend to be a little bit thinner. And again, when you've done that, you've got what looks like an almost reasonable tree, but you do need to put just a little bit more bushing out on this. We want to connect up the leaves a little bit, leaving some gaps just like with the oak, but don't do as many leaves as you would the oak. It needs to be just a touch more sparse. And I think we might have got that done. We've got enough leaves, there's plenty of branches still showing, and you can see lots of light coming through it. It's a little bit more sparse than your oak tree, and it's a little bit similar in shape to the spruce tree in terms of it goes up a lot more compared with how out it comes. We can't use any of the birch stairs or slabs obviously because the texture is very different, but I reckon that looks okay. A smaller birch tree is fairly simple. It's like a Q-tip made out of birch leaves with the birch wood going up with a trunk in the middle about 6 high. We've got a couple of little birch branches coming out using those fence posts, but there's not a lot to it. Just randomly place those leaves around, a little bit more bushy than perhaps the larger birch tree would have been, but it looks quite effective when you mix it in with large trees next to small ones. And I'm going to be honest, a fallen birch tree doesn't look quite as good as the oak and the spruce, so I've not bothered doing one. And our final custom tree for this episode is going to be the jungle tree. Now remember, a jungle tree is a big tree. We're going to start with 4 blocks and we're going to take this up 20. So that is a big old trunk, and then at the bottom we're going to build it out even more. Now Obviously, jungle trees can be a little bit funky. We could even have some gaps underneath our roots coming out here. That looks quite cool. Why don't we do that? And then we can bring some single bits out coming down there as well. That can come out that way. We can make this really quite structural. We've got a lot of room to play with. We got quite a lot going on at the bottom of that tree. It's a tall tree, so it needs a big base. And then we're going to come up a fair distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I'm going to start to bring out a branch here. And we're going to make it come out diagonally. Just that one branch like that. And we can maybe bolster it a little bit to make it a little bit more solid attached to that base too, because obviously this is going to be a strong branch. And I'm going to come up a little bit further, and we're maybe going to bring a branch out in this direction. Again, we can come out a little bit diagonally and maybe pop up a little bit like that. Let's make that a little bit more solid again. That's perfect. And then up at the top, we're going to bring out branches coming in a number of directions, out in this direction as well. And then go to town on this. Make them go wherever you want them to go. Make sure that you've not got the branches overlapping too much. Otherwise, you're just going to have big open spaces. I'm going to have another branch come out in this direction as well, I think. There we go. And then bring up your tree slightly smaller, and then smaller again like that. So we've got kind of a tapering effect at the top. And then using a spruce fence, because jungle wood doesn't really work, stick a couple of spruce fences on the end. And just like before, we're going to put pop outs on the ends of these branches. We're going to put plenty of pop out though. I'm going to go 2 that way, 2 that way. I'm going to bring 1 that way. I'm going to stick another one out there. One's going to come out there, I think. And we're going to do this all the way around. So once you've got your naked tree on there, you can start to add your leaves, and bring your leaves out just a little bit further than you have with the previous trees. They can come out a little bit more, and you need to keep them relatively flat. The jungle trees don't have a lot of depth in their canopy. They do, however, have quite a lot of width. So make sure you cover over all of these fences, or at least most of them, but don't go down too much. Doesn't matter if you go down a little bit. Maybe you can come down just once like that, but don't go down a lot because it will completely ruin the jungle shape. So you can see the kind of effect that we're making there. I need to put another couple of leaves in there. We're getting this layered effect. So we've got one branch coming out, and that's got a layer of canopy. Another branch coming out in another direction with a layer of canopy. And as we get to the top, the canopy is going to effectively join up as we go around. So almost a disc of jungle leaves. And once you've gone around all of those fence posts, your jungle tree will look a little bit like this depending on where you put the branches and the fence post. And now you've not got very much to do, to be honest. You just need to put in a little bit more bushing, a little bit more fluff around all of these leaves. You don't need much. Don't overdo it. The danger and the temptation is to do too much. I recommend that you don't do too much, and actually you keep it relatively simple. Keep it quite flat as well. You don't want it coming out too tall, otherwise it'll end up looking more like an oak tree and not like a jungle tree. Make sure that you do give the opportunity for these leaves to connect up though, because obviously they are going to be connecting up most of the time in the jungle because they're uncontrolled growth. The jungle trees just go absolutely bonkers, don't they? And that looks just about perfect. These monsters of the forest have got so many opportunities for custom building. Really, go for your life on this one. Put leaves wherever you want, and make sure that you've got that canopy sprawling across in multiple directions with plenty of space between the branches. Small jungle trees are still quite big. That's like 10 tall, those blocks. And I'm going to just pop leaves again around the outside in exactly the same way as I did for the large jungle canopy. We're not going downwards, and we're trying to create a disc shape in multiple sections of the tree like that. So that'll be one, and then we'll create another one up here. Build out the leaves in fans around those branches exactly the same way, and you're going to end up with a small jungle tree. Well, it's not that small, is it? That looks really great with its big brother right next to it. The fallen jungle tree is a little bit like the fallen oak tree. Maybe there's a few more roots coming on, and the biggest difference is the leaves never go down the trunk. They only ever go upwards along the trunk, and you make sure that they're in relatively flat discs as you have pop-out branches. Maybe give the fallen big jungle trees a go as well. You're going to need to make it at least 20 blocks long to make it look realistic, and the root system is going to be massive. Yanked from the ground, and again, all of those leaves going upwards along the branch, not down. So there you have 12 custom tree designs across 4 tree variants. If you'd like the schematics for all 12 of these, then go to avomance.com. That's avomance.com. If you hit the free world downloads tab and scroll down, you'll see that there is a link specifically for this video, which will also have the schematics behind it. These schematics are for Java version. Sorry Bedrock players, I've got absolutely no idea how to create a schematic for you. And remember, if this video gets enough love, I will do another installment with 4 different tree variants and more schematics for you to download. And I'll look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye!